Hello again and welcome to another edition of Shed Talk, my weekly magazine video series looking at the keeping, breeding and showing of cage birds with a special focus on the exhibition style budgerigar. And indeed this episode will mainly focus on the budgerigars, and in particular look at how the breeding season for the budgerigars has gone for me this year. We will of course get all of the youngsters out, or most of the youngsters out anyway, and run them through the show cage and have a very quick look at them, a very early look at them. Some of them you will have seen before, some of them will be new and youngsters. There's obviously a big difference in terms of the age, so we will need to take that into consideration when we are looking at them. As always, if you enjoy the videos, don't forget to hit the like button and do of course comment on anything you see. I do read all of the comments and try to respond to them, and of course if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, do subscribe to the channel, and if you want early notifications of future episodes then hit the bell. Before we get the youngsters out, my plan was to have moved the last or two of the pairs in the wooden breeding cages, you know, in cage 8 and in cage 9, out of there to free up some room so that I could put the youngsters into those as we've looked at them, so that I'm not, you know, chasing them around and mix them all up in the nappy flight. I was trying to do that. I moved the two youngsters from cage number 9 out and went to move the hen and discovered that she started laying again. I wasn't expecting that. You remember we split that pair probably the best part of I don't know, 2 weeks ago almost it must be, and so I wasn't expecting her to start laying again. Unfortunately, my mistake, I hadn't closed the nest box off, partly because she was not very happy with one of the youngsters, and although I'd put a chick hide in there, whenever she had come out of the nest box she chased it around one of the youngsters, and then when she was back in there it gave it a chance to feed. So I wanted to so I left the nest box open mainly because of that. I've checked the eggs that are in there. She so far laid 3. I've checked the eggs that are in there, and even though, you know, I split this pair a little while ago, the first 2 eggs that she's laid are full. This is the cobalt cockbird, you remember, it seems to be filling eggs for fun. So so what I decided to do with that pair is I've taken the 2 full eggs out and I've popped those under the hen that is in cage 1, and taken out 2 of her early eggs that were clear and popped them back under this particular hen. I will let her, when she stops laying, which I'm hoping she won't lay many more than, you know, 3 or 4 eggs. I haven't checked the 3rd egg. It's difficult to tell whether it's clear or full yet. As soon as she starts laying clear eggs, what I will do is gradually remove the eggs, and once all the eggs are out I'll close the nest box. So that's my plan with that one, but it does mean I've got a little bit of jiggling to do then with the cages for the young birds, but we will have enough cages to get most of them out, pop them in through the show cage, and find somewhere for them to go for that short period of time, you know, couple of hours, while we observe the youngsters in the show cage. Anyway, so that was, I suppose, a nice problem to have. We've got 2 more full eggs at least off of that pair, and I've moved, like I say, I've moved those. On that subject of moving them, I may, you know, a lot of people, and I know there's a common problem, is that if you move them in the midway through the hen sitting them, sometimes the hens can have a slight change in temperature and that can cause dead shell. We'll have to wait and see whether I've caught them early enough. They're only just starting to show fertile, so I'm hoping that means when I pop them under there they should be okay. But as I say, only time will tell whether that is the case. Right, what we'll do now then is we'll get the youngsters out and let's have a look at them. So we're going to try and do these birds in ring order. So this is ring number 1, and it's a cinnamon light green hen. and is off of the blue family. You'll notice as we go through these birds that almost all of the blue family are green birds, but they're all split for blue. Dad was the cobalt, so all split for blue. Say a cinnamon hen, light green. This bird is 5 months old, so one of the oldest birds. Well, it would be if it was ring number 1, wouldn't it? So one of the older birds. A bit short, if anything, I must say. She's a little bit short, but however, it's a hen, and I will repeat this no doubt as I go through each of the birds. Almost all of the hens will remain as keepers. I'll just see if I can get her to jump back up on the perch again. So I say almost all of the birds are going to be keepers. All of the hens anyway, sorry, not all of the birds. Finally got her back on the perch again. So all of the hens, as I say, all of the hens are likely to be keepers, or should be keepers, so which includes this bird. She's not the greatest of birds, as I say, a bit short, but yeah, I think overall she will do for the breeding team. I quite like her mask, but it may be just a fraction too short. We'll have to wait and see. But anyway, so I say ring number 1, blue family, cinnamon, light green, 5 months old. So ring number 3, we have a light green cinnamon hen, and this bird is off of the blue family, so she will be split for blue. Being a hen, she's almost certainly going to be a keeper. Really not used to being in the show cage. Don't put the hens into the show cage too often. Yeah, as I say, so this bird is 5 months old, so a little bit of more growing to do, but she ain't I don't think she's going to grow massively more, so not the biggest of birds in the world. Reasonable width of mask, not the greatest of depth, but not too bad either. And like I say, it's a hen, so it will definitely be a keeper for next year. I don't normally like to get rid of too many hens, and as you're probably aware if you've been watching the series for a little while, I'm short of youngish hens. I didn't have very many hens at all last year, so in order to try and keep the hens nice and young, I will keep almost all of them for the breeding team this year. She's pulling quite a lot, this bird. You can see the way she's standing, holding herself. But yeah, I do have quite a few birds, and I think most of the birds that we got off the blue family in those early rounds turned out to be hens. So we will have a few to choose from in terms of where we take the families forward and what we cross these birds to. So that's ring number 3, a cinnamon light green off the blue family. So ring number 4, you would have all seen this bird before, or anybody that's been watching the show for a little while will have seen this bird before. This is the opaline cinnamon sky blue that's off of the McCabe hen. This bird will form part of the blue family because of the Cockbird was from the blue family that we paired her to. Another hen, and I think I've said it lots of times with this bird, I don't need to say it too many more times, definitely going to be a keeper. When she does sit on the perch nicely, when she settles, she is actually a reasonable bird. When I first put her into the cage, she always looks a bit awkward. I think most of the birds do, don't they, when you first put them in the show cages. As she settles, she grows into it. Has done reasonably well whenever she's gone out, for me anyway. Quite a reasonable sized bird. I think it was mentioned in the last video, or the last episode, when we looked at the Swindon young bird show. The judge did note that she had a slightly short mask, something we'll need to fix when we put her into the breeding cage. Need to think about that a little bit. Anyway, there we go. No need to dwell on this particular bird. Ring number 4. Oh, I didn't mention how old she was. This bird is 5 months old. So yeah, still got a little bit of growing to do, I would guess, but not massive amount. And overall, definitely going to be a keeper. So this next bird is ring number 5, another light green cinnamon, and from the blue family. It's a hen, so will be a keeper. And again, not the greatest of birds. As you can probably tell. I'll just see if I can get her to, there we go. So yeah, not the greatest of birds, but again, not the worst either, I guess. She will almost certainly do for my breeding team next year, I think. We'll have to wait and see when we get them all out in September and run through them. A little bit pinched in the head. But reasonable nice shape. Sits okay on the perch. This bird did go out to Swindon and didn't do very well at all, as you can probably gather why. But like I say, it's a hen, so it will be a keeper. And off of the blue family, which most of the birds are, they did really well. This is again one of the daughters from the cobalt. A few more of those to come. So a nice cinnamon, or an okay cinnamon, light green hen. This bird is 4 months old, just so I can confirm the age. So 4 months old, and again off of the blue family. This is ring number 6, a normal light green hen. This is off of the blue family. Reasonable bird, I think, short of mask, but for a hen it's almost certainly going to be a keeper, and with it being a normal rather than a cinnamon, that will help in terms of what I want to put her to next year, because she can't be split, of course, to cinnamon or to opaline, so she is just a green normal. We would know, however, that given her father was a cobalt, that she is split for blue. I have some thoughts about where she might go to actually, but more on that in a future episode. So a normal light green hen, ring number 6, and off of the blue family. I didn't mention how old this bird was. So this bird is 4 months, so still a little bit of growing to do. Hopefully the tail will grow back. yeah, overall reasonably happy. Not the greatest of birds, but reasonably happy. Still got a bit of developing to do. A hen is almost certainly going to be a keeper. Ring number 6. So ring number 9 then is a opaline cinnamon grey-green. Not happy at all in the show cage. I will just see if I can get the bird to settle a little bit before we talk about her. So it is a hen, and one of the few birds we got off the grey family. And because it's one of the few we got off that particular family, and because it's a hen, it will probably be a keeper. It's not the biggest of birds, as I say. So I would and ah about this one overall, and I would definitely need to make sure I put her to a nice big cockbird, I think. She's settled a little bit more in the cage now, so you can get a better look at her, although she is still pulling quite badly. Just as I say that, she decides to have a wander around the cage again. I don't normally give the hens that much show cage training because I don't really intend to show these birds that much. I will see if I can get one final little look at her before we pop her into one of the stock cages. Like I say, really not happy in the show cage. I find if I get a bird like this that just won't settle at all, I'm better off observing her, as I do anyway. Observe all the birds in the flight. When they're more relaxed, you can get a better view of them. But as I said, I don't think this is going to be a biggest of birds at all. So, but a hen, and off the grey family. Ring number 9, I think I said that. So ring number 9 will probably be a keeper, just because it's a hen and it's one of the few birds off the grey family. Before I upset this bird anymore, let's pop her back into the stock cage. So this bird is number 10, ring number 10. Not the steadiest of birds, as you can see. A cinnamon grey-green opaline, and it's off of the grey family, and it's a hen. It's about 3 months old. Pulling a bit at the moment, as these birds often do. This bird hasn't been in the show cage very much at all. If it has any good features, I suppose. First one is it's quite broad behind the eye. Has reasonable depth of mask. And is a hen. And being a hen, it's almost certainly going to be a keeper and form part of next year's breeding programme. We'll almost certainly need a lot more showcase training if I was going to get him out. I don't think she's likely to go out onto the show bench. But a nice stock bird for next year, like I say. Not the biggest of birds, so we need to think what we're going to put into. 13. So there we go, ring number 10. Next bird is ring number 11, which is a cockbird. And is a normal dark green So a normal dark green cockbird. And this bird is off of the blue family. Not the greatest of birds, but still got a bit of growing to do, I think. I shall wait and see what it looks like in September to see if he's going to be a keeper or not. Bit short at the moment anyway, looks a bit short to me. So we can get a slightly better view of him. Stands okay on the perch, I suppose. So 3 months old, dark green, off of the blue family, I think I've said that, and a cockbird. So this is ring number 11. So this is ring number 12, a hen, and is a normal light green. This once again is off of the blue family, as you might gather. This bird is 3 months old. It's already quite a large bird for 3 months, in terms of my shed anyway. So quite like the depth of mask. Yeah, overall quite a nice balanced hen, I think. Almost certainly, well, it's a hen, so it's almost certainly going to be a keeper. I don't think I'm going to get rid of too many of the hens that we have. She's very nervous in the show cage, as you can probably gather. Yeah, so a normal light green hen, off of the blue series family, or off the blue family. So, all in all, yeah, happy with that one, I suppose. So this bird is number 13, ring number 13. So this bird is ring number 13, as I say. Really isn't happy in the show cage. It's a hen and a light green, and it's again off of the blue family. Just going through a molt at the moment, as you can probably gather from the top of the head. She is 3 months old, settled just a little bit now in the cage, just a tiny bit. See if I can zoom in just a fraction on her. There we go. Now I've done that, she'll get all upset again. Another bird that, being a hen, is almost certainly going to be a keeper. Has a reasonable mask on her, reasonably straight back, and reasonable width across the face, in all honesty. When she finally sits on the perch, as I say, because she's a hen, I've mentioned it before, don't normally sell very many hens, so particularly young hens, this will definitely be one of the keepers. Before she stresses out too much, I'm going to pop her into one of the stock cages. So the next bird we're going to look at is this normal light green, and ring number 14. This bird is a hen, and again it's off of the blue family. This bird actually it's pulling a bit at the moment in the cage. the show cage, and therefore it's, you know, not showing itself as best it could. It is a hen and actually has quite a reasonable face on it. It's got quite a straight back, as you can see. I think the wing carriage is just because of its pulling. Otherwise, I'm hoping that's the case. Let's see if I can get him to turn round and maybe settle a little bit more. Now I've got her tail up in the air. She'll probably drop down onto the floor now I've moved her. Anyway, there you go. So, like I say, a normal light green off of the blue family. So again, one of the cobalt's offspring. This hen is definitely a keeper. I don't think there's any two ways about that. It's quite a nice big bird. This bird is actually at the moment just 3 months old. Just breaking its cap, as you can see. Yeah. Being a hen, it's going to be a keeper anyway, but I think it's going to be one of the ones that we will try and get into the breeding cage as early as we can. But again, still got growing to do, and it still might change a wee bit over the next few months. We'll have to wait and see. So normal light green, ring number 14, and off of the blue family. So ring number 15 is this sky blue opaline cinnamon dominant pied, and this is from the yellow face family, although quite clearly not a yellow face. A cockbird. This bird is also around about 3 months old. Still unsure about this bird, although I think it's one of the few birds I've got off the yellow face family, and as such I do expect it's likely to be a keeper and stay in the shed, although not sure at all. We will have to wait and see. Very narrow across the top of the head, no real depth of mask, and no real size to it as of yet. So probably talking myself out of keeping it, aren't I? Currently I think this one is, based on what I can see so far, and being a cockbird, likely to go in the sales. There we go, that's the ring number 15, as I say, ring number 15, and part of the yellow face family. So this bird is ring number 16 and is a cockbird. Again, not the best bird in the show cage. I'll just see if I can get him to stand a bit. Wants to be on the bottom of the cage all the time, this one. So ring number 16, cockbird as I say, and a cinnamon sky blue. Cinnamon sky blue. And is part of the yellow face family. Part of the yellow face family. Say a cockbird, cinnamon sky blue. This bird is just 2 months old. So still has a fair bit of growing to do. As you can see, he's just breaking his cap for the first molt out of his baby feathers. and will probably, I think, be a keeper. Would be my guess. Settled a little bit now, not perfectly settled in the showcase, but settled on a little bit now. I don't think it's going to be a show bird, but it could be make a reasonable stock bird for me. Still got quite a lot of growing to do, as I say. So ring number 16, Cockbird, and off of the yellow face family. So this next bird then is an opaline cinnamon sky blue and is ring number 17 and off of the yellow face family. A cockbird, and actually this bird is only 3 months old, and I think looks like he might actually be quite a reasonable bird. Still got quite a lot of growing to do. I'm hoping he'll settle so we can get a decent look at him. But insists on going dropping back down onto the floor. I'm going to try and distract him with my hand a little bit. Definitely needs some showcase training, doesn't he? I would say was almost certainly going to be a keeper, if only I can get him to settle. Settled a little bit there. Not the broadest of birds, so not got the biggest shoulder or the widest face, but got a bit of size to him considering that he's only 3, a bit of length I should say, considering he's only 3 months old. So he's still got quite a bit of growing to do. I've not really noticed this bird in the flight, so which is unusual. Normally I can, I see a bird in the flight and think, oh, I'll get him out and have a look at him. But not this one, so I will have to keep an eye on this particular young cockbird. Settled quite nicely now in the showcase, so you can see him, how he looks, hopefully. Yeah, ring number 17, and reasonably pleased with this bird at the moment. Yellow face family. Next bird is ring number 18, an opaline cinnamon sky blue hen, very young, so this bird's only 2 months old. See if I can get her to settle a little bit in the, there you go. So like I say, only 2 months old, so very young, not the biggest of birds. This bird is off of the grey family, so the grey family bird, and I would say, if it wasn't a hen, my instinct is that this bird is just not going to make the grade, but it is still young and still got quite a bit of growing to do. I don't know about this bird, probably because it is a bit young to be certain, but it doesn't look as if it's going to get any real width about it or any real size of mask, or it's very pointy in the head. I'm just trying to distract her a little bit so she doesn't climb all over the cage. Which I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do. To see if that thing at the bottom helps. No. Anyway, as I say about this bird, not the greatest of birds, so, but we'll wait and see till September when we go through them all and see if it's got any bill growing to do, or any more filled out a bit, and maybe, just maybe, it will stay, but it might be one of the hens that doesn't make it. But I really am always reluctant to get rid of hens, especially young hens. So ring number 18, an opaline cinnamon sky blue, and from the grey family. So we go, this bird is ring number 20. It's a normal dark green cockbird. The bird is off of the blue family. It's only 1 month old. As you can see, it's still bar-haired, but it's actually not quite a big bird already for 1 month old. Still got plenty of growing to do. If it carries on growing the way it is, then it will almost certainly be a keeper. As I say, it's off of the blue family, so this bird is going to be split for blue, this cockbird, and it's also going to be split for cinnamon. Got a fair bit of bulk on it already, as I think I've said. Yeah, not a bad bird. I think this bird is likely to be a keeper. Not overly comfortable in the show cage. Got a reasonable depth of mask on it. Lovely width in the head at the moment. As always, he is likely to go backwards a little bit. But ring number 20, a normal light green and probably a keeper. One of the cockbirds that's likely to make it through to the breeding cage next year. But we will have a look at him again when he gets a bit older. I say they can change quite a lot in these few months, I find anyway, in the few months when they're being weaned. But at the moment, keep this one. So this bird here is ring number 21, so one of the youngest birds, and it's a normal, I think it's a light green, although it might actually be a dark green, but I guess it's a light green. It's a bit difficult to tell in the light at the moment. So a normal light green, still very much a bar head, and obviously still got a fair bit of growing to do, but at the moment it looks like quite a small bird. And it's only just been moved to the nappy flight, so I think when it's at that stage where they start to go backwards a little bit during that weaning process when they have to compete. He is of course off of the blue family, so the cobalt family, and a cockbird. Not the best of the birds we've had off of this particular family, but he's still got a bit of growing to do. But at the moment, my guess at the moment is he's not quite going to make it. But we'll have to wait and see. Like I say, it's very early for this bird, very, very early, given how old he is. And in terms of his age, this particular bird is about 1 month old. So as I say, very, very young still. So that's bird number 21. We're very nearly at the end. So ring number 22 then is another sibling off of the blue family, so off of that cobalt. And it is a normal dark green. First time in the show cage, so it's actually pulling quite a bit in here. I'll just see if I can get her to, or him, sorry, it's a cockbird. No, he's not gonna lift his head up. This is actually a fairly biggish bird. And as you can probably, I think you can probably just see, got quite a reasonable depth of mask It's not a tuft, despite what the little mark on the front of his head looks like. It's just starting to stand a bit better now, starting to relax just a little bit better now. Gone back to that hunched back shape. I say very young again, so still only just a month old. A cockbird. A normal, which is always helpful for the cockbird. I expect to hear splits of cinnamon. But overall, if I can get this bird to stand okay, I think it will make a reasonable bird. And if not, then I guess it will be a reasonable stock bird if it doesn't decide it ever wants to stand up properly. Well, if it remains to be with this much of a hunch, then it would never be a stock bird. I'd have to get rid of it. But yeah, I think it will grow out of that as it gets older and more relaxed in the show cage. So there we go. Ring number 22. Blue family. A normal dark green. So moving on to ring number 23, which is this cinnamon light green, and it's a cockbird. This bird is literally just coming out of the breeding cage, and I'm about to put him into the nappy flight. Of course, he'll go into one of the holding cages first, just while I'm doing this assessment. So, as I say, ring number 23, so actually the youngest bird we've got so far. And I think this bird looks slightly better than the other one, although I say again, that other bird has been competing in the nappy flight, so I do find they sometimes go backwards. But overall, I think this one looks a bit better. And again, though, it's difficult to say how they're going to get on. It looks like he's overall, though, he's going to be a slightly bigger bird. A cockbird from the cobalt family, so we'll have to wait and see whether he is going to be a keeper or not, because we've got quite a few from this particular family. I mean, quite a mix of cockbirds and hens. So that's the last of the birds that we're going to look at then. Ring number 23. This bird is also just 1 month old, and from the blue family. Interesting that all of the birds we've looked at from the blue family have all been green, so maybe I misnamed that. But there we go. So from the blue family, ring number 23. Well, I thought I'd finish off this episode by just having a quick look at the statistics that lie behind how my breeding season has gone. We've had a look at the birds, which is obviously the most, I suppose, really the important bit, is that we've got some birds on the perches, and some of those look reasonable, and I've got a few young hens, which is always good news. But in terms of how the breeding season has gone, based on those statistics in terms of fertility rate and that sort of thing, I thought I'd finish by talking very briefly a little bit about that. In order to produce those statistics, I use my breeding spreadsheet, which automatically does it for me. If you haven't seen the spreadsheet, I did do a video, I think, on it a little while ago, and a copy of the spreadsheet is available over on the Shed Talk Facebook page. So if you want to have a look at that, pop over to the Shed Talk Facebook page. You can download, or you can find the link to download a version of the spreadsheet that I use for my breeding records. And there is, I believe, over there also an explanation on how to use it. If you can't find it or are unsure, then just, put something in the comments, and I will answer you directly there, or I'll do something in the next video. So the first thing I'll talk about then is the fertility rate, and that is based on the number of eggs that I've laid and then the number of those eggs that are fertile. So that will give me my overall fertility rate. And currently that stands at 27%, and that includes the eggs that are in cage 1. That's a mixture of cage 1 and cage number 9. So you know there are, I think there's 6 eggs in there that are full, 4 off the pair in cage that are actually cage number 8, and 2 that I've moved from cage number 9. So the fertility rate includes those 6, so 27%. So just over a quarter, 1 in 4 eggs that were produced this year have been full, which I think is, you know, can't really complain about that. I know some people will say that's really low, but for me, I think that's just slightly above my average, so I'm quite happy with that. Of course, most of that was produced by cage number 9, the cobalt, and I think it was the light green hen, who produced a whole load of birds. But anyway, overall, just over a quarter, or over a quarter of the eggs were full. So the next statistic that we'll look at is the hatch rate, and that's the hatch rate compared with those eggs that were full. And that was 76%. So, you know, 3/4 of the eggs that were full actually succeeded in going to full incubation rate and ended up hatching successfully. Clearly there were some that didn't. They either were dead in shell or they had got addled. So 3/4 of those eggs that were full hatched, and I think that's quite reasonable, you know, only to have 25% of the eggs addled or dead in shell. It's okay. I mean, you'd obviously prefer that to be slightly higher, but that's the way it was. So the next thing that we'll look at is, I suppose, the next stage in that, one of the next hurdles to pass is the birds that reach that critical 8 to 10 days that enable me to put a ring on them. And we'll have a look at how many of those birds that hatched ended up getting rung. And that actually was 92%. So we lost about 1 in 10 birds, youngsters, after they had hatched. And you know, that always happens. Either birds get squashed or it doesn't get fed, that side of things. But you know, 9 out of 10 of the birds that hatched successfully ended up with a ring on them. And the next statistic that we'll look at is how many of those birds that were rung actually then made it onto the perch and were successfully weaned. So of those birds that were rung and successfully weaned, it was 90, let me just double check, 91%. So again, 9 out of 10 of the birds that got a ring on them managed to make it on to the perch. There are, you know, I think you should have quite a high success rate in terms of the number of birds from ringing to perch, and you know, 91%, maybe that is slightly low. However, given the numbers that I'm breeding, it only took, I think, of those birds that didn't make it, I think there was probably 2, and that lowers it right down because of the low numbers that I actually breed. So yeah, there we go. So, and of those 2 birds, I think both of them were birds that ended up just not being fed by the mum. You may remember that we had a couple of birds that after I rung them, we had one bird I think that managed to damage its leg and then it died very shortly afterwards, and another one that mum just decided to stop feeding it. So almost certainly there was something wrong with both of those birds at some stage. So those were the stats. How do they compare with last year? Let's have a look. So actually it's quite interesting when I compare it with last year. Overall last year my fertility rate was actually quite a bit higher. So my fertility rate was over half. So over half of the eggs were full. However, the success rate from full eggs onwards was much worse last year. So, for example, of those eggs that were full that hatched, only half of the eggs that were full hatched, as opposed to, you know, 1 in 9 of them hatched this year. And then we've got, so of those that were rung, so it was 85% of those that were rung, those that hatched managed to get to ring, and I think we were up in the 90s. And in terms of weaned birds, so those that were rung that actually got weaned, we were only at about 60%. So in terms of the final success rate, it was actually, we were much better in terms of getting birds on the perch this year than we were last year, and that is always very pleasing. So that's a quick look at the stats. They don't tell everything, of course, but I am generally this year, I am quite pleased, both in terms of the number of birds produced and certainly some of the quality. I'm hoping will take this shed forward. And what it will certainly mean is that I've got a bit better to choose from when it comes to next year's breeding season. I can, you know, this year I was a bit limited on hens, you may remember, which meant that I were putting hens down that perhaps I shouldn't have done, or weren't quite up to the required standard. Next year I'm hoping with a greater number of hens we'll be able to choose from. We'll be able to select some better quality hens for those better quality cockbirds. So that's how a quick initial view on how the breeding season has gone. Of course, you know, if those 6 eggs hatch and all make the perch, then actually the overall numbers, the overall percentages will go up. But we, you know, as they always say, don't count the chicks before they've hatched. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little run through of the young birds. Of course, I will do another assessment, in fact, of all of the birds come September time. I will gradually start to split the birds now into, you know, the show team for this year, any keepers and any sales birds over the next few months. But the big assessment, as I say, is done in September. Of course, a lot of the birds have still got quite a bit of growing to do. So that is just about all we've got time for in this particular episode. We haven't had a chance to go out and have a look at the finch and fifes, and in particular to see how those young fifes are getting on. I will try and put an update on the Shed Talk Facebook page later on this week or early next week. And so if you want to see how the fifes are getting on, then do pop over to the Facebook page and have a look. But as always, until the next episode, do stay safe and enjoy your birds.